Hello, Wise Owls. Laura Walker, OracleReport.com. It's the eve of the new moon in Pisces. I'm recording on March 5th, 2019. The new moon in Pisces enters tomorrow, Wednesday, March 6th at 11:04 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm calling this cycle the Exalted Experience. I think this is going to take more than one recording to go over fully, but that would really be what you might expect with a Pisces cycle that is conjunct Neptune. um, there's a lot happening. The new moon occurs at 16 Pisces, and if you're new to the Oracle Report, there are not a lot of new listeners. I haven't written much, so I would say readers usually, but listeners, welcome. We study the repeatable, observable electromagnetic energetics coded in astrology to understand, put things in context, and well, it's basically an exercise in grounding here at the Oracle Report. But always proves out through the data to provide insight into what's imminent in the future. So let's get to it. The Sabian symbol, or the degree of the zodiac that the new moon occurs at, is 16 Pisces, and that is the Sabian symbol energetic, or the archetypal energy of in a quiet moment, a creative individual experiences the flow of inspiration. So at the beginning of the cycle, or this month, you might be feeling like you don't know anything. You don't know anything about anything. You don't know if what you've been told, history is a complete lie, is up, down, what's real. By the end of the cycle, we are going to understand things much more clearly. Neptune brings confusion to understanding. It takes confusion to understanding. And so it's very common under a Super Pisces cycle like this one. We have Neptune and Pisces on the Pisces cycle. It's only 1 degree off of conjunction. And so we have a lot of fogginess and confusion and feeling like things are unstructured and or not contained, and we just don't know what's happening. We do not feel in control, and that's the way Pisces cycles go to a certain extent, but this one, since it's conjunct Neptune, will be much more so. So the takeaway from this right now, don't forget what this is all about, is that the confusion that we have about whatever is happening in our lives and in the world and in our understanding of reality, whatever circumstances are going on in your life interpersonally, you may not feel like you have quite a handle on that, or know how you feel or where you want it to go. Well, that's really the way it's supposed to be for right now. And understand that in the cycles, in the natural, quote, natural cycles of the sun and the moon, we are now at the last month of the astrological year. Astrological year begins with the new moon in Aries. It will begin on April 6th this year. This is the last cycle of moons, last new moon, until we start over. We start a new year. So this is the new year isn't January 1st like it is in the Gregorian calendar. In astrology, it's the date of the new moon in Aries. In this study in method of astrology, and there are others. So what that means is, well, first of all, it's a balsamic cycle, meaning that the whole month is like 1 month long balsamic moon phase. So those are the last days of the month before we have a new moon again. The balsamic cycle is the in-between time. It's ruled all by all of Pisces and the last 15 degrees of Aquarius. And it's the dreamy time. It's the time when the veils between the worlds are thinnest. And it's the second one. Last month was like the Aquarius cycle was a balsamic, month-long balsamic cycle, also solar cycle. So it's about purging and finishing up and clearing out and pre-positioning to begin again, because the old year is essentially waning and the new year is entering. And you can get a jump on the new year that's upcoming by projecting basically, how you want that the next year to go, what you really want to experience, and the way you want to live. This is self-determined in large measure. What we're thinking is what's happening. And so if we purge what we don't want to carry forward emotionally, in any way, in very material ways and things like that, if we just kind of take care of business that we haven't completed, if anything like that, complete it now and prepare a good soil, a good fertile ground for a new beginning, because that's what will imprint electromagnetically. This isn't woo-woo, this is science. And we use it for self-growth. Illuminati use it for nefarious purposes. We take the principles of it and use it to reinforce a harmonic of love. Yes, that's what we do here. That's what this is about. No fear, no doom, none of that, because we're into fifth dimensional second renaissance here, and we're following a map to get there, laid out through the cycles. Okay, so again, you might be real fuzzy about things and just not feeling very sure of much, and not certain. That's okay, because we want to look again back to the Sabian symbol for the guidance. In a quiet moment, a creative individual experiences the flow of inspiration. So we want to leave room. We want to get quiet, and we want to, in our mental mindset, our mind space, hold an opening for surprise and for mystery, and to understand, to gain understanding and clarity, the goal always. So this Pisces cycle, the last cycle of this astrological year, is finishing out the energetic that began at the Aries cycle, which was the energetic of through imagination, a lost opportunity is regained. Maybe that has not made any sense, or you have not been able to apply it in any way to your life all year. By the end of this month, that should change. Your perception should be one of gain, from moving from perhaps a perspective of something that was lost. Okay, that's what the energetic, this is what it's designed to do. Okay, so the negative or the lower octave of that is about failure and always losing, or not feeling like a value for this individual experience of life, blocked to the flow of inspiration, right? Inspiration, in spirit, infusing of spirit. It's what inspiration, the word, is. And that's blocked off to us because we have lost hope. We don't believe, perhaps. So we can need to be okay with not knowing. It's okay to not know right now. And by the way, do you know why we get so focused or obsessed with knowing, quote, what's going to happen? It's because we are a traumatized species to the DNA level. And it's non-local. It's outside space and time, space. And the experiences of our ancestors are in our DNA. We know for certain there have been several catastrophes in human history. We know that much. We remember at the cellular level. All of that purging out. We can work with that to in large measure if there's been a lot of trauma in our family, and who hasn't had a lot of trauma. That's all coming to a head with what's happening with the closing of the age. Okay, so we I think it's a good idea, as I always talk about keeping everything on the table, all different ideas or principles or theories or opinions or commentaries that come to us, and keep everything on the table until you actually investigate it and discern for yourself. Don't just dismiss it, because there are a lot of wizardly spells of cognitive dissonance put in place for things that deserve our inspection. And a lot of these theories or discussions that really came to a head in the truther movement in February over that Aquarius cycle was that transmission of information about those issues: mud flood, Tartaria, flat earth, Mandela effect. That those things had been bubbling in the field, and then they hit pretty big throughout February. And if you think back to when you discovered about 9/11, depending on when that was, you would face various levels of resistance. If it was, quite a while ago, you could, if it was over 10 years ago, you could really not say that. You couldn't really talk about that without just an immediate reaction of cognitive dissonance and just criminal levels of vitriol. And so there are similar cognitive dissonant effects surrounding these other topics. And so if you haven't looked at those, like I said, keep it on the table until you investigate it for yourself. That's just, go past the programming. And understand that distraction. That distraction is in place here, purposely, intentionally, with various psyops within it, because, I mean, the word that the Illuminati never and the Cabal never wants us to really say is magnetics. If you put electromagnetics together, oh my goodness. So understand about the distraction of these things also. Just, you guys are seasoned with all of this, and if you haven't looked at any of it, just understand it's there. There are things also in place to utterly distract or try to put you in a lower vibration. And so if you get on board if you start studying these topics, whatever, remember, and this goes for everything this month, remember what's important. That's how you stay balanced with all of this and trying to come to clarity through the mist of Neptune in Pisces. What's important? What if you distilled down or alchemized what's meaningful to your life, and in your life? What would that be? What's really important? And let's put aside our fear also with all of this over the month. It only gets better from here, this dimension, this reality. What we are experiencing is a civilization in collapse. It's a collapse of a paradigm. And we are finding ourselves in the middle of two worlds, really, two states of consciousness. What we thought of as the afterlife maybe is real life, perhaps. And this we're thinking life is the after-death experience. We think this is it. This is the world, the place to be, but maybe it isn't. Maybe this is 4D, that we've exited 3D in 2012, we're in 4D and moving into 5D, where certain outcomes and occurrences of the past and cycles of the past may not be in effect. And we're not going there. Maybe we're not going into that same pattern of destruction. Okay? maybe upholding the experience of life, upholding life and the experience of living because we believe that we can be beautiful again, perhaps living in a more beautiful existence, place of consciousness, of civilization can return, can be rebirthed. Okay, so grounding, trying to ground when all of these Neptunian, Piscean themes are swirling around us, all of the watery waves. That's what it is, water. It's very hard to feel grounded during a Pisces cycle with Neptune in conjunction. Okay, it's again, it's water, it's emotional. You might find yourself crying, especially on the new moon, and again at the full moon, and feeling unstructured, uncontained, like you can't pin things down, some avoidance, feelings of wanting to retreat, definitely heightened psychic abilities and feelings, and it's a more creative time, Pisces cycles. And we have, again, the Sabian symbol of, or the theme for the month, or what the primary energetic that will overarch the entire month is: in a quiet moment, a creative individual experiences the flow of inspiration. Remember, the overarching theme for the year, through imagination. Well, it takes a creative person to have an imagination, doesn't it? Because shutting that off, shutting off imagination, shuts off creativity. And what the Sabian symbols are saying is that cutting off imagination cuts off inspiration. Okay. So it's a balsamic cycle. Again, it's the end of the year and it's like a double balsamic, the time of purging. Again, so there might be some emotional welling up here, and that's good because you might be carrying a lot that happened over the, well, really since the Capricorn cycle, because it's basically the last quarter of the year. But it really is the end of everything since the spring. Not the end, but just the end of this cycle, or this evolution of it, this level of its development. We're preparing for a new year. And so we're going to begin the new astrological year on April 6th with Venus in Pisces. Venus is what we call in astrology exalted in Pisces. It's a fabulous imprint for the whole year. There will be reconciliations with all kinds of things, particularly about money. The Sabian symbol for the astrological new year begins again on April 6th. That Sabian symbol is 16 Aries fairies dancing in the setting sun, which is really a whole other discussion. But this is why we are having the exalted experience this month. We're going to find out, I think, that we really, at the end of it, we're going to find out that we really knew a lot more than we thought we did. We just needed to see more of it manifest, and our instincts will be confirmed, and we'll be perfectly positioned. Why is that? Okay. Now, that's basically the gist. If you want to click off now, I'm going to go now into a little more depth about the astrology and the planets and the Sabian symbols that are activated. So now we'll go into a little more astrology data. Okay. Well, there's a lot happening at the time of this new moon, with this new moon. Let's just start early, at the earliest. Uranus is going to re-enter Taurus overnight, the night before the new moon tonight. So it's 3:30 a.m. So that the new moon is at 11:04 a.m. Eastern Time. Before that, at 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Uranus is going to re-enter Taurus. And that means it's going to begin again to conjunct the Chiron point. And the Chiron point is the degree of wounding, healing, and teaching, and of all things for bridging from one thing to another. And Uranus is all about changes. Taurus is Earth. It's Earth changes. Okay, this is the now Uranus is really going to start making its way through Taurus. It entered Taurus briefly and then retrograded back into Aries. Now it's back. So the Chiron issues now are emphasized for the next couple of months, few months, 3 or so. It's going to emphasize wounding. It will press upon psychological issues and suicidal ideation. That can happen also with a new moon in Pisces conjunct Neptune, because things can get very unclear for people, and they can take things very far into another place with Pisces, another world, and kind of get lost and go away. So take care of everyone. We have to take care of each other. Chiron brings tremendous changes of states of being. Okay, it rules alchemy. So it's now fundamentally changing foundations with the earth. Saturn is also in Capricorn, its home sign. It rules structure. Saturn is rapidly wanting to make conjunction with Pluto also. So we have ground shift happening. Complete changes of paradigm, complete changes of what's underneath our feet. Really. We also have Mercury stationing retrograde a few hours after the new moon at 1:19 p.m. Eastern Time. Mercury is stationing retrograde at 30 degrees of Pisces, the very last degree of the zodiac, the longest Sabian symbol. A majestic rock formation resembling a face is idealized by a boy who takes it as his ideal of greatness, and as he grows up begins to look like it. Okay, so this is again the projection of the mind, Mercury, into ideations of greatness. All right, so again, remember, Sabian symbol for month. In a quiet moment, a creative individual experiences the flow of inspiration. All right, Mercury, when it retrogrades, well, it wreaks havoc on communications and telecommunications and travel and electronics and whatnot. But what its purpose, the purpose of the retrograde, or what develops from it, is a revision of the way we see things and understand them. And it's going to be retrograde until March 27th, so almost the entire Pisces cycle. So it's going to be working to give us that exalted experience. Mercury, the mental processes, cognitive processes. Okay, so it's really couldn't ask for a better Mercury retrograde. Really. It's going to station direct at 10 a.m. on March 27th at 17 Pisces, which is where Neptune is located right now at the new moon in Pisces. So it's going to reactivate that degree. That degree is an Easter promenade. It's the electromagnetic energy that stimulates faith and rebirth and infusion. So that's the goal. That's where the Mercury retrograde is going. It's going all the way out to that point. It's going all the way back to 17 Pisces, the Easter promenade, to give us basically a rebirth in our minds. It's perfect, because then we're going to be, if a few days later we begin the new moon in Aries, the new astrological year. So let's not hate on the Mercury retrograde this year, guys and gals. All right, this is It's a good time of year to have a Mercury retrograde went during the Pisces cycle when we were in a balsamic, because it's like, oh, okay, let's purge that and get rid of it and get it all spiffy and ready to go to begin it in a fresh new way. Right there, Easter promenade. All right, as I mentioned, Saturn and Pluto are trying to make conjunction. Saturn is trying to make its way to Pluto, and it's going to retrograde before it makes conjunction. Now, Saturn and Pluto only come together in conjunction every 33 to 38 or so years, because Pluto has a very highly elliptical orbit, or its movement is highly elliptical, perhaps. Um, and so the energetic that is completing now has been, I have to look up, I need to look up when the exact conjunction was last time. So in part two, I'll go a little deeper into this. But the point of it is that Saturn and Pluto bring ground shifts. They're going to make conjunction on January 12th, 2020 at 22 degrees of Capricorn. And they're now in, and so basically over, the rest of this year, they're in balsamic phase. And so they're trying, so I'm giving you like a wider view here of what's happening, because this is a massive, massive conjunction. It's in Capricorn. It's just restructuring everything, all levels of everything. It's just a clean out, total clean sweep. Um, they're in the balsamic phase until then, until January 12th, 2020, which means that they are exactly what I was just talking about. It happens in balsamic phases, purging, clearing out what's been carried all those years that no longer serves, beginning to start new ways. Okay, it's a big deal. It's very much part of the shifting of the ages, and they're both just powerhouse um, planets as far as the effects on our lives. They're just massive. They're just epic. And recall, 22 Capricorn is a general accepting defeat gracefully. All right, and so I see that as the fourth dimension slipping away more and more. And fifth dimension apparating in front of us as we will it. As we will it, right? All right, we talked about the new moon is conjunct Neptune. Neptune at an Easter promenade. The new moon is in sextile to Mars. Mars is at 14 Taurus, which is the Sabian symbol of on the beach, children play while shellfish grope at the edge of the water. It's kind of a grim image, but what it's about is changing of perspective and changing of what's basic to us. What does our basic core truth? It's really where the two worlds meet, isn't it? The edge of the water. And it's a unifying energetic, and again, that's a sextile at the new moon. The new moon also sextiles Saturn. Saturn is located at 19 Capricorn, which is the Sabian symbol. We know it well. A child of about five carrying a huge shopping bag filled with groceries. All right, this is on one hand heavy responsibilities and carrying quite a load and considering consequences. It's also about pacing ourselves and sharing and collaborating, but mainly I think that this one is about food for the soul, nourishment for the overwhelmed, abundance pouring over us. The information that Spirit is sending us this month is more than we could even process. it will take us all of next year to process what's incoming this cycle. It started coming in last cycle. Remember last cycle, the Sabian symbol Aquarius cycle was a big businessman at his desk. Things started coming onto our table. All right, new, just beginning like knowing something's going on, something's happening. We know something's happening. Bigger things are happening. We're honing in to singularity. Okay, we putting things on the desk and taking them off as needed. Um, so remember that. Okay, we have to just get quiet and open up a creative space and experience the flow or a flow of divine inspiration. Jupiter is moving into conjunction with the galactic center. It's going to station retrograde on April 11th, right after the Aries cycle begins. And Jupiter right now is at 23 degrees of Sagittarius, which is the Sabian symbol of immigrants entering a new country. Jupiter likes to take journeys. It's about promises and about new territory of the mind. Okay, when we get in range, a planet gets in range of that degree of 27 Sagittarius, the galactic center, there are things begin to expand. Then things become quite intensified. When Jupiter does that, Jupiter expands anyway. Okay, so we're having basically, the sky opening up for divine intervention. And isn't that exactly what's happening? Isn't that exactly what we're seeing happening in consciousness, with energetics, with the electromagnetics of it? Yeah. Also, keep in mind that we have a lovely little union of Venus and the black moon happening on March 22nd. So that always brings blessings. Mark your calendar for that one. One thing I want to mention before I forget is this is the 10th year for the Oracle Report, and there are archives on oraclereport.com. I don't have all of the archives because changed servers and lost, I think, the first couple years. But I don't know if we missed a whole lot from that anyway. But here's an experiment. Let's say on March 12th, you're kind of looking for some insight into something or having kind of a tough day maybe. Go to oraclereport.com, go to the archives page, type in on the search bar March 12th, and see what years and what days I wrote a report, if I did. There's usually at least one report for all those days. Most days have several reports. I wrote every day for many years. But the energetics repeat, and even though it's not the same exact astrological configuration as that day that you might pick in the past, there will be something for you in there because the way the reports are written are layered and designed somehow to provide an answer when you go looking. So try it and then let me know if it worked for you. I've tried it. Worked for me because I read them just as much as anyone else. Chiron, we know, has now moved back into Aries and is at the Aries point, the first degree of Aries. A woman has risen out of the ocean. A seal is embracing her. That's the Sabian symbol. This is the covenant of life and rebirth. We have the new, right? Everything is the new. This is the first degree of the zodiac. So Chiron is pushing in a whole new cycle, while Uranus is just now moving back into Taurus, activating Chiron's little area of the sky. So Chiron is trying to set things right. Chiron is like a very wise teacher that wants us to learn and wants us to help get us where we need to go. Um, it's the beginning of the zodiac. It's a power-packed degree, and it holds great potential, especially right now with the other combination. It's great potential for healing. At the time of the new moon, the Earth will be located at 16 Virgo, and that's children crowd around the orangutan cage in a zoo. So this is usually about confrontations and with things that or people that we do not feel like or any resonance or commonality with, or that it's like a zoo being around. All right, this is the world's kind of like a zoo right now. I mean, we're watching it. We're staring at it. What's happening here? Um, and then the wisdom of this symbol is to not think that things are so dissimilar. People are so dissimilar than we are. They're not in a lot of ways. Um, all right. I think that. Well, oh, one last thing. Let's talk a little bit about the black moon. The black moon is now moved to 24 Aquarius. It's almost out of Aquarius. Black moon in Aquarius or Leo people. Black moon, sun or Chiron. If you have the black moon, sun or Chiron in Aquarius or Leo, you've been undergoing a massive redoing, an overhaul, a renovation, bringing you to another place. And all the rest of us alongside you have been working out issues related to black moon in Aquarius with the opposite polarity of Leo. It activates both. And those are the issues of feelings of powerlessness and fear of change. Maybe in May, when the black moon leaves Aquarius, maybe we will not feel so fearful of change, and maybe we will feel much more empowered than when it started out. The black moon in 24 Aquarius is the Sabian symbol. A man turning his back on his passions teaches deep wisdom from his experience. This is transmutation to wisdom, knowledge and experience, and its teachings from the masculine. Okay, so that theme in place there. All right, I think that will do it for part one of this. That's quite enough to get us started, I think, on the cycle, the exalted experience. I think that it's going to be wonderful, because what is better than more understanding and more clarity? And that is what Neptune and the new moon are bringing us. So I hope you have a happy one, and I will see you next time.